So, in the last couple of days, we've had the SPS and the announced date for volume 109 for One Piece, and I've decided it would be a good idea to recap what we've experienced in the last 10 chapters, so 1110 to 1119, which would be, I think that would count as volume 110. But I'm just gonna do it like a 10 chapter recap because I feel like one Piece as a weekly series tends to suffer with some pacing, not really pacing. Pacing has been fixed the last couple of years, but there'll be a point of contention today if a chapter is released today, and next week the chapter would fix all the contention, like we saw with Bonnie's Gear 5, where in chapter 1118 it was very controversial, very contentious, but then in 1119, which came out last week, the contention was swept away because everybody understood, oh, this is how it works. So I want to go through the last 10 chapters and talk about how I feel, what they've done to the story, and people who only read weekly should be a good recap to remember during this break week what we're going to see coming up. So the first chapter is chapter 1110, Planet Fall, which the cover story is indeed Yamato's Holy Nari Shrine Pilgrimage, Volume 2, which is her telling Momonosuke she's going to travel all over Wano like Oden. So the chapter begins with us seeing the black lightning from the Gorosei's magic circle type things, and people reacting to it, wondering if it's like when Saturn arrived, and it's really it's ominous. The vibes are really ominous. We see Dory and Brogy laughing, walking through Egghead. We have the Gorosei's room in Marijoa. So, in the room of authority, Vegapunk's message is still continuing. At this point, the message hasn't officially begun. It's him talking about the 7-minute wait time and how people are gonna have to wait a bit more so that everyone is ready for the message. And he's talking about how many messages killed. I want to talk about the magic circle. So, when Saturn first got onto Egghead, there was a magic circle. However, the magic circle appeared while he was close to the island. The other Gorosei spawned a circle from where they are, and they managed to get instantaneously from Marijoa all the way to Egghead. Before, Saturn said he will perform the summoning. To me, this means they cannot instantly travel wherever they want like that. There has to be at least one Gorosei or somebody who knows how to summon them, but only the Gorosei who I think can summon them, and Imu. Only they can summon each other across the world. So we see all their forms in silhouette, and Vegapunk is still talking about how the broadcast might try to be silenced. And then Luffy is talking about how there are 5 other monsters, and we see Sanji running with the stellar dead body. So we have Saint J. Garcia Saturn, the Gyuki, Saint Marcus Mars, the Itsumade, Saint Topman Wokuri, the Hoki, Saint Ethan Baron Venus Juro, the Bakotsu, and Shepherd Jupiter, the Sandworm. Now, the Sandworm is based off of Western mythology. I think the Bakotsu and the Itsumade are Japanese mythology, and the Hoki and Gyuki are from Chinese mythology. Now, there was a lot of research that went into this, and I'm not really the most educated person on the mythologies of the various countries and what they could mean. I haven't even watched Dune, so I don't even know what the Sandworm does in Dune. So, below I'll link a few videos. Maybe I'll link a Murphy video or a Tekken video explaining all the different forms and what that means in the different mythologies and all that. Then we see a full double page spread. This was, I remember during the fact that when chapter came out, this was the first double page spread, like full double page spread, not the partial double page spread. Oda had done, I think I remember people saying since Dressrosa. It had been a long time since Oda did a full double page spread and not the partial one where it's like a good chunk of the screen is a spread, then on the corner there's some words, on top there's some words. Now this was a full double page spread, and we were so happy to see this. We saw a little Luffy at the bottom, which was really cool. Venus immediately moves and speed blitzes all the way across the island towards the Pacifista and uses like Brooks' Hell Flame or Hell Ice and cuts the Pacifistas, immobilizing them. And the Marines are happy, the tides are turning back towards them. And After they were all stopped, they were partially frozen as stated. And then we can see Mars flying up. And Sanji says, yo, watch out to the guys on top of the Labrostratum. A monster is literally flying up to them. Mars flies through the dome, which, once again, the dome as a deterrent is really a joint for like low-level scrubs. Because Kizaru, his lightman, he can pass through. Bonnie passed through with the help of Sentomaru, but she was fine. Sentomaru is still able to fight even after that, after he was taken on after that eventually. And then Luffy went through twice, but Luffy's a tank. So Mars is still doing all this, and the sandworm goes into the ground. It's digging, even Luffy says so. And the Straw Hats on top of the Labrostratum said Zoro and Jinbei still haven't come. Well, Brook and Lilith have brought the ship, and we see the ship, and Jinbei is flying towards Zoro, in which we see it now. At this point in time, Zoro had been fighting Lucci for a long time, like a very, very long time, and his fans were sweating. There were whole memes. The base Lucci meme was at its peak. It wasn't base Lucci, it was Lucci in a weekend form, but it's still really funny. Sanji tells Zoro he's been a burden, and Zoro immediately locks in. 3 sword style after using 2 sword style this whole time. Spotted Leopard have a hunt and takes Lucci out, and that seems to be it. Now, it seems to be Ornament Hockey with the Black Lightning. We still, at this point in time, we still don't know what classes as Ornament and all that, because Oda uses Black Lightning for all of it. My take is if they're touching its Ornament. So the worm tries to swallow Luffy, and he does swallow Luffy, and then the giants talk about how Luffy's a nostalgic face, and then they cut the giant in half with Child of the Soil and Sun. That's the named attack. It's like the second name of the attack we see. No, third. They had one in Little Garden, another one was Shanks. Could have been the same one. It's the third one we've seen them do on screen. And Luffy says, oh, the old timer giants are here. And they laugh and like, oh, you look good. It's been too long. And that's how chapter 11:10 ends. So, TCB, I'm not using the official translation. I'm using TCB for this recap. I will still link a video down below talking about the mythology about the different Gorosei. But over here, there is a small insert about what they are. So, the Gyuki, Saturn. A Gyuki is a spider yokai famous for its giant cow-like face. They attack people on the beach. The Itsumade, Mars, is a creepy bird yokai with a human face and a snake-like body. A Hoki, Wokuri, is a monstrous boar from Chinese folklore famous for terrorizing the countryside. The Pakotsu, Venus, is a skeletal yokai that is said to be the spirit of a horse that burned to death. 5. A sandworm, Jupiter, is a mythical serpent or legless dragon that appears in famous modern fantasy franchises, Dune. It could also be related to similar creatures in the Walk of Dune. Yeah. So, the Hoki is the one that they state explicitly in this excerpt, or insert, I'm not sure how to use that word. The Hoki is Chinese. I think the Gyuki looking at this photo is Japanese. And the Itsumade and Hoki, they could be Japanese, they could be Chinese. I know there's 2 Chinese, or 1 Chinese, or 2 Japanese and 3 Japanese. Hopefully, in the videos, I can link below, or I can put up on text on the screen right now, which is Chinese, which is Japanese. The sign is Western, it's Western. But that's what chapter 11:10. So, chapter 1111, title, it was color spread week, so we didn't get anything more about Yamato's Inari Shrine pilgrimage, but it was chapter 1111 titled The Sun Shield. So, Jinbei sees Mars and he talks about how the Haki is unreal. That Zoro says no, Lucci is still standing after taking that named attack. And Jinbei is talking to Sanji about how if he's found Zoro yet. And then Jinbei tells Zoro, you've already won, bro. And then uses Fishman Karate to blow Lucci away. And then Lucci sees Mars, who's asking for York. And for the first time in a long time, we see Lucci genuinely in awe of what the fuck he's looking at. Because these are forms you don't really see frequently. But then he keeps going. He talks about how York is tied up in fourth floor building A, and that he talked about how Zoro and Jinbe ran away. There are 5 more Straw Hats up here and 2 Vegapunks, and they're trying to explain. He basically tells the whole plan. He's snitching, and they have 6 minutes before Vegapunk's message is taken, and then he asks if Mars can let Kaku go. But then, like what Saturn has been saying the whole arc, he's not going to free a single insect. That's not what they do. When they're examining, they can't free a single insect. Luffy and the old timers, they're talking. They tell Luffy he looks like a god, and Luffy still doesn't understand it. There's many times so far, before this and even up to 11:19, where Luffy is told he's Nika, he looks like a god, and he just doesn't want to listen, and he's like, I don't care. And then Walkery, Saturn, they all talk about how they're giants and how it's a complication. We see a spread of where, not really a spread, like a panel of thing where all the Straw Hats are and where everybody else is and what we need to rendezvous to. And then the horn was blown by the Dory and Broggy. And then they immediately like, we need to dip. They found out that they're going to flee. Walkery does a Conqueror's Haki roar, which knocks off Luffy's Scar, Sandals, Straw Hat. Then Luffy picks his Scar back up and he attaches it. And then they're like, a Conqueror's Haki roar. So this was the first confirmation we got that the Gorosei have Conqueror's Haki, but we didn't want to assume at the point that they all have it, so we only said, okay, Walkery has it, because Walkery, at this point, we all felt like he was either the strongest or second strongest Gorosei. It was always like, it was Walkery, and then Venus, and then the rest, and Saturn was the weakest. So if I can remember properly, the discussion at this point in time, the order was, after this chapter with the Conqueror's Haki roar, it was Walkery's strongest, then Venus, then Mars, then Jupiter, then Saturn, because Saturn looked the weakest from what we saw, because we saw most of his moveset. And then he did some weird move. Like, the Gorosei seemed to have some weird moves, like Saturn did in the last batch of chapters. He did some weird spinning move with his legs to hit Luffy, and now he also some weird spinning thing, and they block him with the Sun Shield shoveling. And he asks, why are you defending Luffy? That's what the says. I'm just paraphrasing. And they say he's their buddy. And then they hit him with a split Skylda. And then, what's his name? Walkery. Now, no, not Walkery. Saturn. Saturn over here spits balls of venom. Luffy grabs a tree, gnaws at it like corn, paints it like Mihawk would paint his black blade, and then creates a bat and hits it back at the Gorosei, laughing, and then they explode when Luffy reacts. And then like we have to go, the Gorosei in silhouettes. Saturn and Walkery look amazing. The what's it called? The Sandworm looks a bit silly with the X on its face. And then they talk about how they're immortal, so they have to run. They just start running. And then we see the Vice Admirals, Mars mix it to York. Kizaru, his wounds, he's holding his face, he's weeping. And then we see the ancient robot. This is the first time we saw the ancient robot moving. And he says, "Forgive me, Joy Boy." Now, this chapter when it dropped, we had all been waiting for the ancient robots. We had all been waiting for a long time because we saw it boot up. This is the first time we saw it moving. We're like, finally, it's gonna do something. Now, in this discussion, since if you're watching this video, you already read it or you're just getting a recap, so the robot doesn't do shit for a good chunk of this chapter, but like it does its first main thing in 11:19, the last chapter. Before that, it's just moving. It's just moving. It does something more, but I'll get what it does when I get to it in the future chapters. For chapter 1112, titled Hard Aspect, in the cover story, we see Yamato being given a letter by Kinemon as a parting gift for a favor he wants her to commit to her, to give this letter to somebody we will see in the next volume, who it's gonna be or who the group is he wants it to be given to. So in the chapter we begin by seeing the Marines talking about how the Mark III pacifistas have been taken out by Venus, and how they can't let Emperor Straw Hat's crew get away. Venus seems to be rushing towards Bonnie as he talks about how she's no more than a 12-year-old girl and how Vegapunk has given her the power of a nation. We see more of the giants running back towards the ship and how they can't let the ship be sunk. Frankie, now, Frankie gets to hit the Vice Admiral. I can't remember his name. His name's not really important. He's the one with the really, really weird neck. And Frankie just one pumps him, basically. Like, one hit, he's done. And at this point in the arc, the Vice Admirals have not looked good. They have looked terrible. And yeah, it's Frankie. Frankie beat Sasaki, and Sasaki was below Yonko Commander. So in between the Vice Admiral to Admiral Garp, I would say, fight me. And so Frankie, we can't put him in that. I think we should put him in that because the final saga. Bonnie tells Jax to take care of Kuma's body, and after all that, Bonnie herself touches a Vice Admiral, makes him go younger, and then kicks another Marine. So Bonnie is showing some feats. Vegapunk's message is still going on, and York and Mars trying to figure out where it's been played from, but they're not sure. And Mars just tries to blow up the lab. He says he's gonna vaporize the lab, but then she's like, no, you're gonna blow up the power station. At this point, we still have not seen the power station and what it looks like and what it can do. It will be seen later on. And then Mars shows off what's kind of like the voice of all things, but not really, where his observation hack, he's able to sense a small life form from Punk Records, and he's looking for the entrance. We go back to the main lab where the action kicked off with Kaku and Stussy, and talking about the monster, basically Saturn, how he's a Gorosei, and how Stussy stayed in the lab to carry out her final mission, which is she's going to lower the Labostratum's dome, the dome, and how she's gonna get rid of that so that the Straw Hats can go off. Edison, like the child he is, jumps completely off the Labostratum and blows up through the dome. Now, I mentioned in 1112 when Saturn flew straight in, the dome, for the most part, can't really hurt or really subdue characters I will put above, let's say, Marine Captain level. No, let's say Rear Admiral level. So, the weakest Straw Hat and above Rear Admiral. I'll put Chopper and Nami in that Rear Admiral conversation. I see it as they can tank it. Edison is not on that level, and from what we've seen in the coming chapters, he does tank it. We go back to Luffy, Dory, Brogy, and the other three Gorosei, where the worm is trying to suck them in, pause, and they just start throwing. So Luffy throws a building at the sandworm, and then he gets out of gear 5, he eats some Elba food, goes back into gear 5, no, not in gear 5, still in base Luffy form, from what I see here, and he hits him with a red rock. This is, yeah, it's base Luffy form, because we can see in the next page his arm is on fire and he's seeing how his skin is hard, and Walkyrie is not phased. So this is the beginning of us seeing, unlike Saturn, because we could see Saturn take physical damage. Earlier we saw Jupiter's eyes are whited out over here. They're completely whited out. We can see it. Him get hit the middle, they're whited out. But Walkyrie took this hit, nothing. Studly nothing. He looked perfect. And then we end the chapter with Saturn going up and meeting Usopp, Nami, Brooke, Robin, Chopper, that group, and Lilith. Bonnie, Frankie, and Atlas are with Venus. And then Marcus Mars has found a Dendenmushi. Is it the main Dendemushi giving Vegapunk's message is still not been stated. Chapter 1113 was another color spread, so we did not get to see anything more about Yamato's holy Oni Honin pilgrimage. And it's titled Stalemate. So, Punk Records, we see it in full as Mars sees it, and we see Vegapunk's head, which was cut off. I can remember when this chapter released, everyone was like, "Oh wow, his head was really chopped off." We still don't really know how Punk did this. My theory is, since he has this weight of regrowing organs, he found a way to kind of like not really regrow his organs per se, but like he cut it off in a way where he has the medical knowledge to be able to cut off his brain and still function. I don't know the specifics, but looking at it, it was really, really strange. And Mars destroys a Dendemushi, and then we cut to Syrup Village, Usopp's hometown, for the beginning of reaction piece. So, I'm gonna state this now, at the beginning and throughout. During this point, the next 3-4 chapters, the community was split in a point. This chapter wasn't that bad, but over time, more of the community were kind of against reaction piece because they wanted to see what's happening in real time in story, and not how it was basically just every chapter was us listening to Vegapunk's message and looking at reaction. People kind of got tired of that, but as I think it was JD Legend, he said, if you don't like reaction piece, you don't really have skin in the game. Like, you haven't really been out here watching One Piece. These moments are why we enjoy One Piece, because you've built a connection. It's a large story. The world building, that's One Piece's main claim to fame. One Piece has amazing world building, and for people to be mad that the world building is to be put into use, it was really weird. So I skipped over it, but now Vegapunk says his message begins. And the way it begins, he says he talks to the entire world, say he has to share. It's a great burden what he is sharing. At Syrup Village, the Usopp pirates, I'm gonna call them that, are asking why Kaya doesn't have a video transponder snail, and it's been said it's expensive and it's a very, very large pet. It's large. It's not like an average Dendemushi. It's like a pet in the One Piece world. We see Crocus. We see Vegapunk's village. The hyping up because he was born there. We see Birdie Kingdom where Chopper went during the 2-year timescape. How they talk about how Vegapunk is the king of science and how he's developed bad weapons. Hachinosu. Some people care about the message, some don't care about the message. Hachinosu will be important in a few chapters for a specific point. The message begins, however, as it begins, he says, "This is Vegapunk." After Mars has lifted his leg from crushing the Dendemushi, and sees, oh, it was wrong, and he immediately blows out of Punk Records, and we see the Gorosei having their telepathy type thing, where they're talking about how Mars hasn't stopped it, and he's like, yeah, Vegapunk planned for this, he was more cautious, and there's no stopping the Vegapunk, and they have no impossible way of knowing, and then you're telling he might reveal what O'Hara stated. So, Vegapunk's message begins, we see more people, we see some kids sleeping all around the world. I think that should be, I saw the blues, it's either north or west blue, I don't know where the place on the right is. We see as part of the Gorosei during the telepathy how they really, really don't want this message to come out. Now, once again, at this point, the main theories I can remember, not really main big theory, but main talking points in the chapter initial discussions was, what does Imu feel about this? Like, is Imu like really, really like talk? Can Imu hear the telepathy and hear them saying all this? Is that why they're so shocked? Like, shit, Imu can hear that we can't stop this message. We can even see, looking at Venus, that is a proper neck vein. Like, that's on like Denjiro neck vein levels. It's a proper neck vein. Sanji is still carrying Vegapunk's dead body, and it's kind of sad. He's still talking to it. It's really, really sad. And then he sees Venus going to attack Bonnie and Frankie, and Sanji speed blitzes, jumps, seems to be on Venus's sword and kicks him, blood drawn. Like I said in 1112, so far, Walkery is the only Gorosei we have seen take a hit. He's taken impact from the two giants, and he's taken a hit from Luffy. I think he's taken Gear 5 up to now, and he's taken that Red Rock. He has not, no blood, no white eyes like Jupiter. He has been perfect. Mars as well. But Mars hasn't been in a fight even up to 1119. No, 1119 he did take a hit. So Mars has only taken one hit, basically. One hit. The rest of the time, the other four Gorosei, Walkery has been steadily and hasn't taken a single hit. Sanji gets bit immediately after he gets hit. So once again, the Gorosei, they can take a hit and they can bounce back up. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying Walkery is the only one who has taken hit after hit after hit and is perfect. He's fine. Sanji, after hitting Venus turns back into a full horse because he's in this hybrid form, holding his sword, full horse, and bites Sanji, and we hear a crush snap. Oimo and Kashi come in to hold down the Bakotsu. Bonnie uses distorted future, give her a giant-ish future. Now, once again, we see the giant form is not really doing anything. I'm gonna go through the rest of the chapter before I go back to Vegapunk's message and talk about what was happening in the community at this time. So we see Saturn making it up. We see more reaction piece, but I'll talk about that when I'm talking about the message. We see Saturn going up to the Straw Hats. Robin, Chopper, Usopp, Nami, Brook. Robin realizes that he is a Gorosei, and even Saturn clocks, yeah, that's Nico Robin. And he blames Akainu. Now, I remember at this point, people were like, oh, Akainu. This must mean something because Akainu has been shown many times. The Japanese fans have said his dialect and how he speaks Japanese to the Gorosei is very disrespectful. It's not very respectful. So we'll see how that goes. And Nami immediately says, protect Robin. And we see genuine feats. And I'm gonna go off chronological order here. So, in chapter 1119, it's kind of shown that Frankie can use ornament hockey. Because of that, reading this now, going through the panels, making this video, I feel like while in Tekken's video he said it's kind of fucked up how we don't really get anything like during Wano of them being shown hockey. I feel as if now I'm gonna, this is headcanon, this is nothing to do with other One Piece fans or what's switching the story. My headcanon is Chopper is hit by one of Saturn's legs. He is fine. He tanks it. I think some hockey to that. Nami's thingy. So usually, from what I remember how Nami's climber baton or climber attack is colored in, we can clearly see black, the colored bit, and the white bit. It's always the colored bit, it's black in manga, and the white bit. However, in this panel, it is mainly black. So maybe that's just Zeus because Zeus is there. So it's just black with Zeus. But my theory is Zeus is Big Mom's soul. He was maybe using Big Mom's soul. Big Mom had all three hockey. So Nami herself can't really use ornament, but through Zeus, Nami can indeed use ornament hockey. That is my theory. It's just purely headcanon. You don't have to believe it. Usopp has observation. Brook is a weirdo. So Robin, there were some theories during one that Demonio has some ornament hockey. Can't confirm it, but because of Frankie, headcanon, I'm gonna let it slide. Brook, I feel as if Brook is the one we can let go with out Ornament's hockey simply because of his underworld ice attacks, where he can just seemingly, it doesn't matter, he doesn't need the hockey, he'll just cut your soul. And soul seem to have a big impact. So Brooke not having Ornament doesn't really bother me. We continue after the Straw Hat. York talking about how she's a Vegapunk, she should know where it is. So let's go back to Vegapunk's message. So Vegapunk's message began basically after Mars blew out of Punk Records at the beginning of the chapter. So he starts yapping. It's a long yap. It's a long yap. He confesses he's made 2 grave sins, and he believes that he will be killed for his transgressions, and that the message is coming because he's been killed. So the main thing about this message is it's not for the One Piece fans. There is one big thing, which is at the end of the chapter, which I will say it. There's one big thing that is for us, the readers, that is in 1114, maybe 1115. But what is stated in Vegapunk's message is mainly as a recap, basically, but it's for the One Piece characters, like people in the One Piece story. It's cement more world building, so it's in the back of our minds that going forward in the story, characters will know shit happened at Egghead Island, and the Egghead Island incident has been hinted at. And the people are reacting, oh wait, he's already dead. Already. And that the Straw Hats had already kidnapped him. You know, we saw it from Duval, we see Sabaody, we see the Germa Kingdom where Caesar and Judge are showing it. Caesar's like, fuck bro, I can't believe you're dead, I want to fuck you up, I want to surpass you. Morgan's reacts in a funny way, how he's killing print media. It's fucked up what he's doing to Morgan's business. However, he says he's not qualified. The message says he's just conjecture from what he's learned from different sources, and he does not intend to say who was right, who was wrong, and who's evil, who was not evil. That is not what he's here to do. He's just here to state the truth. And he says, I'm sure what I'm about to say will be hard to accept. Some may think of him as a madman. That said, it is still my duty to ensure everyone is aware of the issue. The One Piece world is sinking to the ocean. This, it was not really something that was new. However, it was something that was needed to be confirmed. The One Piece world is sinking. Now, the main thing people bring up about this was, what's it called? If during, I think it was End of Wano, when Law and Robin were talking to Oden's dad, I forgot his name, the former Shogun, Kozuki, I've forgotten his name. I'm so sorry, I'll put it up on screen. There was a photo shown of old Wano and current Wano, and the sea level, even with the Wano walls, was still gonna be above old Wano. So it had shown, the theory was stated from then, even before that, you know, there was King of Lightning's Red Line theories, all these things about how the world is kind of weird and how the ocean is rising. And those theories were really proven. Like, I remember there was a lot of validation for a lot of theory crafters in One Piece, and this is a point where they could say, because for a long time people are saying, why do you craft theories? This really realist is. And this was them saying, this is why we craft theories. We may be wrong. Sometimes some theorizers take it too far and they get mad that their theory was not wrong. It was, their headcanon was proven wrong. But in this case, a good theory, by reading the story and understanding, coming true, it feels good, and they are happy that it came true. We go to chapter 11:14, The Wings of Icarus. Now, I'll talk about the title right now before I talk about Yamato's. So in the chapter, the way Vegapunk's message continues, it's like him basically stating he flew too close to the sun. It's not like he's stating it, but him looking at this, he talk about what happens, all this. It's like either he or the people he's gonna talk about flew way too close to the sun. This is once again my headcanon. You can ignore this part, but chapter title, Wings of Icarus. We continue Yamato's cover story where Kinemon is stating that she must go on her pilgrimage. Her pilgrimage will take her starting at the flower capital up to Hakumai, going all around through all the different places, returning Yasuie's sword to Kibi, going all the way around, all the way and back to the flower capital to finish her shrine pilgrimage. So, people are reacting to Vegapunk's message at the end of 11:13. The world's gonna sink. What's he saying? He's yapping. Now, an interesting part. I'm gonna go out of order again. In this chapter, we see Akainu's reaction. And then I think we also see Sengoku. Is it this chapter? We see Sengoku at some point. So it may not be in this chapter. I'm reading the chapter as I'm recording. So we see Akainu, and as all the vice admirals, rear admirals, we see Hina's or rear admiral is there. All these characters are at HQ reacting to the news of the world sinking. Akainu, who has been very vocal about a lot of things happening in the world, is silent. Not a word, not a peep. He's hitting the dragon ... ellipses. He's just looking. He's looking east, in fact, which is dragon foreshadowing, but it's crazy. And the main discussion at this point was, do the fleet admirals, because Sengoku also had a similar weirdest reaction. He wasn't as nonchalant as Akainu, but it wasn't like he was surprised about what Vegapunk is saying. And do the fleet admirals know something? Is that something that when you become a fleet admiral, you become privy to information about the world, like, oh, the world is sinking, bro? Like, this time straight up, yeah, it's sinking. We have to work around that. You do your thing. And then people also, remember, the community was questioning why Akainu would still be working for the government knowing this information. And I think it goes back to Akainu's justice is more about following the rules that have been stated. He's not a government slave as he does everything for government. It's that there are rules that have been written that must be followed, that what he deems to be justice. He has his own rules, all that, but he still seems to follow them. And he believes that certain things are important for the power. Sacrifices must be made for the power and the good of justice. We cut to Mocktown. They're laughing. They're like, this nigga is yapping. They don't believe what Vegapunk is saying. Water 7. Those who have been ready and like, yeah, this is good. We see Dofi. He's laughing. He's like, yo, this is some real ass message. And he's talking to Magellan. And Magellan talks about how Impel Down has suffered some problems, some floodings from the Lulusia attack. And Dr. Mingo says, oh, maybe we should all evacuate. Maybe we should always go high up. Could be mean Marisha, because once again, there was an assassin sent to Dofi. The Magellan intercepted, which I won't go into that, but high up could be Marisha or could be Sky Islands. I think it's Marisha, because, you know, Dofi likes fucking with the Gorosei and the Celestial Dragons. We go to the Ryukyu Kingdom, Fishman Island, and they should be happy. I don't know why this looks so concerned. This does not affect them whatsoever. In fact, it gives them more real estate. But their dream is to live on land and see the sun. So if the sea level keeps rising, it'll be hard for them to go up and see the sun. So I see what they're saying. We go back to Egghead, where they don't believe that, like, Vegapunk enough for these lies. And the Gorosei, they're like, we need to eradicate this quick. And Yoke is still like, Stella is revealing everything. Vegapunk's message continues, talking about how his sensor, showing a few days ago, there will be an earthquake across the entire planet. We see, what's her name? I forgot her name. The sweet commander from Big Mom's crew. Smoothie. We see Smoothie and Mondo. For the first time since they were knocked off the Wano waterfall, which is a long time ago. That was before chapter 1000. That was a long time ago. We see the islands have been flooded, and Vegapunk says sea levels will rise by 1 meter. People are starting to believe him, like, oh yeah, this nigga is like, he know what he's saying, and he predicted it. And that we see back at Pirate Isle, Hachinosu, we see Kuzan after his fight with Garp. And he says people need to pay Vegapunk. I'm going off mark, but I feel as if at this point we have to go reaction piece with the message. So you have to go panel by panel, people reacting to the message as it goes. And he says the earthquake was not a natural phenomena. And Saturn is getting more agitated while fighting the Straw Hat, saying Vegapunk, not another word. And Chopper, like I said before, he is still taking this. I don't think God Point is so strong it can tank Gorosei hits like that. I think there's some hockey involved here. That's be some either the base level ornament hockey, not even like visible, just some form of guarding himself through will has to be involved here. Other Straw Hats are still going hard, still hitting these shots. Vegapunk, he says it. He says it in the next panel where we see the Mother Flame in its entirety, because Saturn gives up on fighting the Straw Hat. He's like, fuck you niggas. He just runs straight into the lab, and we see the Mother Flame. An amazing panel. This A and MU. I think in Japanese it was said to be Atomu, so atom. So that's what it was. And Vegapunk says how his first sin was he wanted to be good. He wanted the everlasting energy source, hell-bent on bringing the world to a better place. However, he flew too close to the sun. So I was right. I did remember it right. He did fly too close to the sun, and Saturn is trying to eradicate each form of life like Mars. And I think it's more of observation. Some people think it's voice of all things, but I think it's more observation hockey that's being used here. And Vegapunk's talking about the Mother Flame and how he shouldn't get ahead of himself in order to understand where the world is heading. So he goes on and he says, we must first address the past, specifically what happened 800 years ago. A century-long period, talking about the ancient war, and then we see the Void Century, how the century was erased, and then we see the Celestial Dragons, and we see Talos' sister and how she does not know what the Void Century is. Now, when this chapter came out, I was not surprised. I was like, yeah, it makes sense that not everybody knows about the Void Century, because in history it's always been people of power don't necessarily care to know how they got their power. If you've been born into power over generations, it's not really about how you got into power. It's like we have the power and we're able to consolidate the power, so you don't have to care about that. And a lot of people thought the same thing. So I think it's more like a good chunk of the Celestial Dragons don't really know about this, but the higher, like the Gods Knights, Holy Knights, whatever you want to call them, and the Gorosei all know about the ancient destruction and all the erasure of the Void Century. As he keeps going, we see Saul. He's laughing, we see him, and Vegapunk's talking about the poneglyphs, which goes back to Saul and him giving Vegapunk the O'Hara's records. How it gives a glimpse into the unknown past. We see, like I was saying before, history would have been given. No, don't get me wrong, the Tenryubuto would have been given some form of history, just not the complete true history. Because we see a little girl given a book where she says how there was 20 kings who teamed up to create the world. And Vegapunk continues talking about the poneglyphs, how deciphering the poneglyphs were taboo, and that was what he felt he needed to do to commit his second grave sin, and how he betrayed the government and studied these things. And he was fortunate to inherit several documents from O'Hara, and he has no regrets from all this. We see the Straw Hats, the cloud is stretching from whatever Edison did. We see Edison on his deathbed. And Vegapunk says he only knows a small fragment of the Void Century. So he will not speculate. He will just give the facts as the facts. The Giants are telling Luffy, stop fighting Walkery. You're doing no damage. Once again, his eyes look a bit more rancid, but that's not the right one. But they are still not whited out. He is still taking full gear 5 punches. So Vegapunk basically over here talks about how there was a bountiful kingdom 900 years ago, and there was a man born from this place. He's the star of the Void Century. He had a body like the sun god Nika from the fables of Elbath, they called him Joy Boy. This was important. For a long time, people in the One Piece community assumed Joy Boy and Nika were the same person. They were one and the same. But no, it seems that Nika had existed for a long time from Elbath, and then Joy Boy ate the fruit. So for me, this means that, okay, I don't think, for me personally, this is coming to me as now I'm starting to move away from the whole Joy Boy was a giant. I don't think he was a giant because he was from the Ancient Kingdom, unless the Ancient Kingdom was a type of giant village. Because Elbaf seems to be like, it's we say that Saul is not from Elbaf, he's just another giant. There are many giants who are not from Elbaf, so maybe the Ancient Kingdom was another giant kingdom, but I feel like it was not, and that Joy Boy, stated to be from the Ancient Kingdom, was not a giant, and his straw hat is just big, as seen in the Marizo vault, because he just it was stretched out using Gear 5 and he just didn't stretch it back. And that's just how it was. Or he was a buccaneer. It's either he was a human who just stretched out or he was a buccaneer, which was has some giant genome, so we let it slide. And he was also the first person to be called a pirate. Very interesting how this goes. I do not talk more about this. We could talk about I'll talk about the main theory here was the original type of One Piece had two types of pirates. There was the Peace Mains and I think the Buccaneers. Was it Buccaneers? There was two types of pirates in the original version of Romance Dawn, the original one shot for One Piece. Was it a couple chapters? The original volume, not volume. One Piece original version, where Garp was not a marine, he was a pirate. I think he was a buccaneer or a peaceman, one of the two. And then there was bad pirates. So maybe him being a buccaneer is put like that because he was a pirate, and that's why maybe pirate was not the original word. Maybe Kaizoku was not the original word for people who are faring on the sea back in the day, but after Joy Boy, the world government made it so the word pirate, aka buccaneer, was a word for evil people who sail the sea. That's my theory so far. Chapter 1115, titled Continental Fragments, we continue Yamato's cover story, and she's still in the flower capital. I remember this was the point in time where people are slowly getting tired of Yamato always being in the flower capital and were like, when's she actually going to do shit? And this is the point I realized a lot of people did rush through the story and didn't really get to see how cover stories developed, how they are really slow they're very slow at the beginning. This around the middle they pick up and immediately something happens. At the end of this batch of chapters it does pick up and we will see what happens. But it's just Yamato getting a bento from Hiyori and Otoko. Now we cut to the flower capital, Wano, and I remember people were like, this is really funny how we're in Wano but past Wano. No, it seems like it's current Wano. It seems like no, it was past Wano because Yamato is not here. So past Wano, like a couple of days or weeks ago, Yamato was leaving the flower capital. She's getting her bento box, and current flower capital, they are just listening to the message, and they got that Dendenmushi from Orochi's operation where he was selling devil fruits and weapons. He was selling devil fruits when you're selling weapons to the world government, and that's how they were using that Dendenmushi. And Momonosuke is reacting to, oh, so you are Pirate Joy Boy. And Kinemon like, oh, you know of him. Momonosuke and Yamato, I remember people are like, in a really, people like, Momonosuke and Yamato know a lot about the history of One Piece. They know a lot about the story. I don't think Oden's flashback in his notebook had the One Piece and what it is, but it said all about Joy Boy and they knew all about this. So Momonosuke and Yamato knowing this kind of a good reason why I think Yamato didn't come with the Straw Hats. We go to a naval jail cell G4 where we see the fake Luffy becoming the fake kid. I remember everyone in the community was really happy to see this because it's a really funny thing. Kid stocks went down. They were like, oh, kid is washed, kid is done. We see fake killer, fake heat wire, you know, and Fake Kid even calls Joy Boy Joy Toy. That's how little he cares. That's the type of guy he is. And the main theory is that he only takes over a personality when somebody has gone missing. When Luffy went missing, he takes over the personality. So I think now I'm wondering what's the timeline for Shanks versus Kid. If Kid got to Elbaf quicker than Luffy got to Egghead, does that mean that Shanks Shanks took care of Kid a couple days ago, and Kid is out, and like it's kind of world news like yeah, Captain Kid is missing. Hopefully we'll see after Egghead what they say about this. Vegapunk continues his message saying he only has a handful of poneglyphs and how the combined narrative of that handful talks about a great war in the distance. And during that war, Joy Boy faced against the world governments, who at the point were allied 20 nations. We see Marines. They're confused like with the world government. That's us. A war we fought over 900, 800 years ago, and they're like they did say Joy Boy was a pirate, so they are learning more about their history. The boar is chasing Luffy, Dory, Brogy, and he's still saying Vegapunk. They are very focused on Vegapunk. Then we see Mars use Conquerors. Second, second one we've seen confirmed using Conquerors Haki, and he's knocking out all the Dendemushi with the head vein. And Vegapunk continues talking about how like they allied nations who came together to oppose Joy Boy, and he's still not sure what the reason for the conflict was. Maybe it was like two clash of ideologies. He's not known, and he's not really here to judge the morality. And we see a panel where it looks like Joy Boy with the Nika fruit looked exactly like Luffy does when in Gear 5. It looks exactly the same. We don't know if Joy Boy had to go through the different gears, how he just thought it was the Gomu Gomu no Mi, but it seems like here he had his own Gear 5 form and he was exactly the same as Luffy. And it also seems to have the sash. Remember, like the sash, the purple sash that Luffy has. We see Zunisha as well, the new world. We see Carrot and her leaders. Talking about as Vegapunk talks about like the advanced science and technology of the ancient kingdom over 900 years ago. We see Foxy now. I'm not long a fan, but it was kind of nice seeing Foxy. And I remember once again, like I said before, if you've been reading One Piece for years, seeing this is amazing because outside of the extended One Piece arc, which made the arc really hated, and the couple anime fillers where Foxy appeared in the manga main story, Foxy has not been seen in canon since the end of Long Longland. That was the last time we saw him, and he's not really saying anything, but he calling Vegapunk a big head. And Vegapunk's thing continues, and he talks about how the technology of the ancient kingdom eludes him, and there lies his problem. We cut to Stussy and Kaku in the lab after taking the dome down, talking about what's happened to Straw Hat and all that. We see, what's his name? We see Saturn walking through the lab, and then Saturn is also using Conqueror's Haki. So, three. And at this point, when Mars was shown to use it, the community basically decided like, okay, Valkyrie can use it, so they accept that Valkyrie and Venus can use it. That was like community like, yeah, they can both use it. That makes sense. Mars using the people are like, okay, 3 out of the 5, and then with Saturn, who's considered the weakest one, using it, like, okay, that basically compounded. Because people were like, yeah, they can all use it, but we need some sort of like full confirmation. And Saturn, who was considered the weakest Gorosei, using it, was like, yeah, they can all use it. They all have Conqueror's Haki. And remember, people weren't really happy because I thought of the amount of Conqueror's Haki users always growing, but still really, really short list. You know, Saturn is walking through. Edison seems to be dying. Jinbei is still running towards the ship. Remember, people weren't really happy, like, bro, they haven't made it yet. And Jinbei should be flying with the dome shoes. And he's just carrying Zoro. And how they won't forgive. And Nami says she won't forgive Zoro if he wastes any time. And then Stussy is having a moment of introspection where she's not really sure what she's supposed to do since the Stella is gone, since the Stella body Vegapunk is gone, and Kaku's reacting to this like, oh, hopefully we're gonna get more from these two and I'll talk about what I think will happen to them going forward. Next time we see the Venus Bonnie Sanji fight, and Sanji looks like he's gotten slept. Sanji's on the ground, head down. He looks like he's gotten slept. Bonnie in her giant form has given a kick. He tries to cut her. Venus tries to cut her, but Frankie, with a good showing of speed, helps Bonnie dodge it. And once again, like when Luffy goes into giant form, since like going to a giant form just makes you a bigger target to hit. He does cut off a bit of the mast and the figurehead for the giant ship. And then Vegapunk's message finally continues. The Void Century ended with Joy Boy's defeat. Then we see Zunisha. We also see Bonnie where she can't maintain her distorted future. This will be important in 1118. I'm going to talk about it now. It seems like whenever Bonnie goes into a distorted future, it's really, really, really slow. It seems like it's a one ability in her whole kit that she can use, but it's very, very draining on her. Ethan leaps into the sky and cuts the entirety of the Labostratum Island, like the Egghead Island itself, in half. And Vegapunk continues. The aftermath of the war had greater consequences, and how the scars have never healed the world. And he talks about how it's become known that it's very hard to go through the world, to commandeer ships, to go and travel the world. People like, yeah, that's common sense. But he says it wasn't like that 1,000 years ago. During the Void Century, the ancient world was swallowed and people are now living atop the fragments of that world. We see dragons still ... not saying shit. Sabo is pulling it, also not saying shit. And then we get an interesting side where we have believers, and then we have like Mocktown, we have Nojiko in Nami's home village, also seeming to be very skeptical about what Vegapunk is saying. As everyone else in the village is like, yo, why are you not listening? She's like, yeah, I'm gonna do my own shit. You tell me what happens. It seems like she's very, very skeptical. Vegapunk states, after the Void Century, the world sea level grew 200 meters. And then we get confirmation of warships, marine warships being 60 meters. And I remember people were like, the scaling of One Piece is once again not making sense because we've seen these ships near, near the Sunny, and the Sunny wasn't that tall. From what Oda he gave on SBS, so either Oda may have to come back in SBS 110 that's coming out in a couple of months to talk about what the scaling is for these ships. It's gonna have to scale down the Sunny. People are going for the Seraphim, and then we see Mockdown's very skeptical and they're just laughing at him. Chopper's Kingdom, we see Korea, who's over, I think she's 150 something, seeing how the world has wonder. We see some kids with apples on their head, seemingly Vegapunk fans. And then Vegapunk continues asking, why would the flood occur? And he's like, there's no way it can be a natural disaster. It is no way, and it had to be man-made because it occurred through a brief 100-year period. He looked at the data from before that, after. During the 100 years, the 200 meters just happened. So he has to accept that it was man-made, made through the war, and that the ancient war is still continuing to this day. We see Emu. Emu once again still in silhouette. I know people were very, very annoyed that we still haven't seen Emu in story, his actual face. I think we're gonna get that soon. We go to chapter 1116 titled Conflict, where Yamato is getting medicine and food from Osuru, Kinemon's wife, as she's out of the the castle. I forgot what it's called, if it even had a name, but she's making it towards the outskirts of the flower capital. We see the sumo wrestler who was trying to get a hold of what's her name, Okiku. was trying to get a hold of Okiku, and then Luffy and Zoro got in his way. It seemed like he wasn't imprisoned because he was part of Kaido's crew, not really a main member, but he seemed to be like a retainer of a member of Kaido's crew, and he's just free. So I wonder all about that. We cut to what's it called? Alabaster, where they're talking about Vegapunk's message. Then we see Higuram and Pell. We see Higuram, Pell, the Jackal guy. I've always forgotten his name. It's not really that important to me. Vivi's duck. I've forgotten the duck's name. I'm so sorry, but the duck is important. I've forgotten the duck's name. And I'm skipping, but I had to skip so we can get that because talking about all these different things about Alabaster, right above, we see in Castle Pangea in Imu's flower garden, he has a place where on the wall there is a portrait of Queen Nefertari D. Vivi and Lily, Nefertari D. Lily. And this brought so a lot of people, there was the theories that, oh, Lilith is Imu, or Imu did something and took over Lilith's body. It seems that's not the thing, and he seems to not really be a woman. He could be still be a woman, but I think he's not a woman, and this is just him. He loved her. I think that my theory is he had a crush on her. He loved her, and then she betrayed him when she didn't come to Marizua, and she spread the poneglyphs around the world, and he had her killed because she now went back to Alabaster. And he shouts Vegapunk. He really, really doesn't want this message to be coming out. Maybe this echo sentiment we saw a few chapters ago, how the Gorosei were like not happy when the message was starting. Vegapunk continues. He says he has to apologize, something he must confess, about how his goal was to make an infinite power source that could fuel society, and he created the Mother Source, which has many practical uses. However, a fragment was stolen, and he takes full responsibility. We got back to Edison talking about how there was a big explosion, which seemed to have happened when Venus cut through the whole island. And then Stussy asks if she can let Kaku free because they were friends. Edison says, Marfa OG, I didn't mean it, I didn't know you guys were friends like that. I'm sorry. I didn't want to make them U-turn on them. And Kaku shows more emotions. Now, I said I want to talk about 1119, but in 1119 I'll skip over it for a bit. I'll talk about it here. So Lucci said there will be consequences. He will not just let Stussy go for whatever her betrayal did. Kaku never seemed to be like that. Kaku always seemed to have more empathy, and him being in the lab this whole time, hearing all about Stussy being a clone, all these things, her discussions, he seems to really, really empathize with her. And we've seen 1119, he just tells Stussy to go. Leave, because he's got to meet with Lucci. And I feel like he shouldn't. I feel like he should go with Stussy, just leave the government, and just start a new life. Maybe they can run the underworld, the pleasure thing together. I don't know how Stussy's underworld operation will go after this. We will see. And then we cut to Pirate Island. It's called Revolutionary Island. Talking about how after the fragment was stolen, 2 weeks after, the Lucia incident happened where it was blown up by an ancient weapon. We see the Marine Rear Admiral, Vice Admiral from Ace's cover story, who used to buy milk for his coffee from the Lucia, and the Mother Flame was used to fuel this ancient weapon. People didn't know about this. It's something we in the community knew. And once again, like I said before, this message is more for the people in One Piece and is for us. We still get a lot of pieces for us, the reader, but it's mainly for them. We have the King Punch nigga kill Lisabello the something. And he's asking, yo, go confirm that Lucia is gone. Vegapunk is apologizing. He's on his knees. He's saying, I'm so sorry. And he's unnecessary to mass murder, and he can't believe anybody will do this. And people like, it's not your fault. Because the disaster was man-made. We have Crocodile, because before Crocodile, we see Momonosuke talking about, then Pluton is, then he's shushed by Kinemon. And then we see Crocodile. Crocodile, we don't know his background. It's either later in this chapter or next chapter we will see Blackbeard. I think my theory is Blackbeard Crocodile, because Blackbeard will know from meeting with Caribou, because the warp fruit, that there's an ancient weapon on Wano. Buggy, who was on the Roger Pirates, will know, oh, we need a poneglyph to go for the One Piece. I know the location of 4. We can go to Fishman Island. Maybe they can, but they won't go to Fishman Island. We can't go to the zoo. We need to find the mink. And we can't go to Totland because while Big Mom is gone, her crew is still there. But Kaido's crew is done. So we have to go to Wano. And I think we are going to have a fight on Wano between the Blackbeard Pirates, the Cross Guild, and to some extent Yamato, Momonosuke, and the One of Us are gonna be involved. And my theory is either one of the Yonko crews, Buggy, Blackbeard, will either get Pluton or Pluton will be destroyed. To me, that's the only thing. Pluton, they'll use Pluton to destroy. No, Blackbeard will destroy the walls around Wano, and then Pluton will be seen, and then somebody will have to just destroy Pluton. But this will also be how in this part we'll be able to see a Mihawk feat. We still haven't seen Mihawk do anything. We've seen Shanks do shit. So we have to see Mihawk do something, but pause his battle with Vista. That's what's coming for him. You know, and then back to Vegapunk. She's talking about how Joy Boy wanted the ancient weapons which was used to destroy Lucia and flood the world by 200 meters to be passed down to future generations. And he has the question, why would he want that? Why would he want that? And then we see Sengoku now. We see Sengoku and we see Akainu. Sengoku seems to be eating frantically. And then we see Akainu. Akainu says everything. You're going to explain everything. Vegapunk meaning. He knows everything. He knows exactly what Vegapunk is explaining. And he seems to be angry that he's explaining everything. And Vegapunk continues. He continues talking about how the answers are coming. However, while the voice century is still an enigma to him, there are people who know everything that happened. The Roger Pirates. And people are like, why would pirates know? You know, why would they keep it secret? That's dangerous. And then Vegapunk continues. He's like, why would they keep this high? Why would they tell us? Or why wouldn't they act? At the end of the chapter, we see Rayleigh, and he's like, oh, you're spoiling too much. What is found out is the thrills for the youngsters to find out. You know, we cut to York. York is like, how would Stella know? How would she know that she or the fragment was stolen? How would he know that she did it? You know, because he was genuinely surprised that she was a traitor. And also that he got news of Lucia and took readings and she never knew because she did not sync to Punk Records and give her information, but she was able to read other people's informations. And then she clocked where the broadcast nail. It is inside the Ancient Giant. So finally the Ancient Giant is, like I said before, up to this point it's just walked around. But this is its first main use case where it is kind of where the Dendemushi is stored inside the Iron Giant. You know. And Rayleigh. Now, what Rayleigh said, it didn't really surprise anybody. To most people, it made sense. Chapter 1117, Mo, continues Yamato's cover story where she goes to the Yakuza sector of the Flower Capital, meeting the old man who trained Luffy and Kokomushi, who did not return to Zou after the events, to stay with the other scabbards to take care of Momonosuke and the Flower Capital. We go back to Pirate Island, and earlier I mentioned Pirate Island will be important in a few chapters, and this is it. In the background of the first panel, we seem to see on the right side people who look like Jean and Don Krieg, and on the left side someone who clearly has Pearl's design. This brought the community to a point where everyone was excited that, oh my god, Don Krieg and mainly Gin are back in the main story. They're back in common One Piece. You know, we haven't seen them since Baratie, not in any cover story, not even in the chapter, the post time skip cover pages, reaction to Straw Hat's return, or the 500 million Berry Man cover story. It is only right this chapter, 11,000, 1,117, sorry, that he returned. The chapter continues where people are wondering about the treasure that could be on the seafloor and how they could get to it. You know, they're talking about how there could be a fortune down there, and we turn to the boys from Jaya, Cricket and the Monkey Bros, and they see the romantic side of it because they love diving, and they're gonna keep diving because this sounds more romantic to them. We go to the Navy base near. I think this is the one that Doll was stationed at. That's near Egghead, where we see Sword after the battle with the Blackbeard pirates, all the way back at this Navy hospital. They're talking about how the message and how it's gonna make them think and how they need to make moves soon and how they need to step up soon. We see Kobe, and Kobe mentions that he needs to write this down. Some people, I remember when this chapter came out, were talking about how maybe this helps Kobe with his observation. He's always understanding things. He can't understand things, so he writes it down, then he understands, then he's able to better understand the world. I don't really see how this kind of comes together, but it's it wasn't really a prevalent theory, but it was a theory I saw on the Reddit, some people on Twitter. Can't remember, I thought it was a YouTuber, one of the big One Piece YouTubers talked about it. I'm not really sure about it. We see Drake. Now, this was something that was a big talking point during this chapter. Drake is still injured post Wano. Now, in story, it's been about 2 weeks since Wano because it took a week for Zoro and Luffy to wake up, then it took another week or so to get to Egghead. So say like 5 days, 5 days to get from Wano to Egghead, and then another day for the Egghead incident day, which is today in story. He is still bandaged up and injured. He is an ancient zone. He hasn't recovered, which is really strange. So I'm trying to think maybe the fruit's willpower can be affected by the mood of the person holding the fruit, because all the straw hats have recovered. Everyone else has recovered because they had the energy to recover. They had something. We have yet to ever see posts an arc where a person has been beaten with the devil fruit and they have no motivation to improve, so we don't see them recover immediately. Even Spandam post water and his lobby seemed to recover. I mean, in the cover story, it wasn't an instant recovery, took a few days, but he's a normal nigga. He has an ancient zone. So, Drake, other people were wondering what's up with him, what's up with Fruit. We see Smoker, who's asking Tashigi where he is, and he seems to be going towards her. Now, this means, where has Smoker been? The theories at this point weren't really that prevalent. People were wondering where he's from. He could have been, doing something because he's not going to Egghead. Some people thought he could be going to Egghead because I know one of the translations, of the early translation, the spoilers. I didn't read the spoilers, but I went back and I checked the spoilers after the chapter released, and people were wondering like, oh, is he going to Egghead? And he's just asking where Tashigi is to know if they can rendezvous. But I think he's going to Tashigi. So, Vegapunk's message continues. He tells people out he realizes he has been very vague, but he can't add any speculation to it. And people want to know, what did Roger leave behind? The barrier lifts. What's her name? Stussy has taken down the barrier. The cloud is extended, so everything is going good for the crew. And Jinbei and Zoro are finally in sight of the ship. But Venus, who last we saw had jumped to cut the island, is now on top of the lab, is on the lab cloud, and is going towards the Sunny, and he is massive. We see the scale of him, and he is almost as big as the Sunny. Sunny is like, I can't remember, it's above 40 meters tall, and the Navy battleship is 60 meters tall from what we learned last chapter before, and he seems to tower over that. So Jinbei throws Zoro at Venus, who immediately blocks it, and we see black lightning, which to me is a clear sign of advanced ornament hockey. He's a Rashomon. However, we see Zoro say Kitetsu Blade, so it's confirmed this should be the Shoda Kitetsu. However, it seems to most of us, not confirmed by Shueisha, it just seems like to most people in the community, the hilt, the guard around the Shodai, has been taken off. Seems like either Oda or his assistants forgot to draw it on, because now it looks a lot like Fujitora sword, which I'm not gonna talk about, but in the SBS 109, it's revealed Fujitora does have a Shodai Kitetsu, and not Shodai Kitetsu, a Saijo Wazomono, and this another Saijo, but there's no god after. Since the chapter 200s, when we first saw Ethan with his sword, he's had that god. So it doesn't make sense for it to not be. Can it be a mistake? And even when we first saw him in the first batch in 1110, he had the god, and Zoro gets blasted back, and also Ethan gets blasted back. And then we cut to the north coast where Bonnie's asking for where Luffy is, all this, how they're ready to set sail. And then the giants get into action and start attacking the marine ships. We see Bluegrass and Doll getting some work, and Doll gives the Vice Admirals their first actual feat in story, doing something. We yet to see the Vice Admirals do something of importance, and Doll here hits Kashi, but next chapter we'll see he'll be completely fine. The Marines are getting hyped again, and then Luffy realizes, oh, Walker is no longer chasing him, Dory and Brogy. The next panel here is an amazing panel of the 4 other Gorosei as Ethan is dealing with Zoro. The 4 other Gorosei are calming down on the ancient giant, and the panel is amazing, it's menacing, and Vegapunk says he has one final thing to say, as the Gorosei say, oh, that's the ancient giant that, not the ancient giant, the iron giant that went across Marizua 200 years ago, and they have no doubt. And Vegapunk continues to talk about people who have the will of D. We see Dragon not facing east, ... Sabo brings up Ace Luffy, Kobe, Luffy, Garp. We see Teach, who, like I said before last chapter, we cannot see Blackbeard's background, as well as we cannot see Crocodile's background. So, I think they're going to meet. Walkuri hits the Iron Giant into the ocean and says that is enough, as Vegapunk talks about the will of D, and the message is cut off. And then York says it's over. This chapter, the way it ends, I'll read the translation note. In Japanese, he gets cut off as he says mo. This could be known as an unknown word, or could also be a particle for also, so it'll be A, just the letter A. I think also the official translation had a similar thing, or the official had the chapter title as also, but TCB had it as mo. And that's what it means. It could, Vegapunk message would end, and it will just end cut out. Among that there is also, but here it says more, so also. That's how the chapter ended. We go to 11:18, titled Being Free. This is the most contentious chapter we've had in One Piece in a long time. Very controversial for reasons that were immediately in 11:19 put to rest, because it's the reason 11:18 is why I made this video. I want to show that if you read chapters in a bunch, the problems you have on a weekly basis, while you can have those issues still, you begin to see, if I look at it in a big chunk with 5 chapters, 10 chapters before, and 5 chapters or 10 chapters after, it can make more sense and being so reactionary, because I feel as if you read in 10 chapter batches, you can make a good understanding of those 10 chapters and not speculate on what's going to happen forward, but just talk about what's happened in the last 10 chapters. So let's get into the chapter. Yamato finally leaving the Flower Capital. It's volume 8, so to me this is faster. I expected the cover story to take way longer for it to start actually leaving the Flower Capital, but to people this is like, okay, it's finally kicking off. The Iron Giant is falling into the ocean, and he's asking, where did Joy Boy go as the Dendemushi is being flooded. Marines see Walkery, who seems bigger, way bigger than Ethan, because Ethan, as I said in 11:17, was just about taller than the Sunny. He was kind of hunched over, but he looks just about taller than the Sunny. Ethan, well, he is on a cliff above Egghead, the shore in the ocean. He still looks way bigger than the 60-meter battleships. It could be another older scaling thing, but still, it's crazy. And the Marines can't see him, and they're reacting to what the hell that is. People around the world are saying, oh, the message has been cut off, and while Vegapunk has said he could be killed for his sins, that what he's done is a sin against the government, people do not think the government are who would kill Vegapunk, and that it is Luffy and the Straw Hats who have come out and they've killed Dr. Vegapunk because the people said the day before, Straw Hat Luffy has taken Dr. Vegapunk hostage, so that could be how he was killed. York is asked how many satellites are left alive, and in the next chapter, Atlas says, yeah, York can't tell. So my headcanon is, I don't think one Vegapunk is enough to have Punk Records 100% active. Not in the meaning of it can't work. I mean, like, if only York is left alive, I feel I should be able to tap into all the knowledge. So right now, I don't think York can grab information specifically given by Shaka or Edison or Pythagoras. No. However, she can still get from Atlas Lilith. I feel as if Oda won't allow Vegapunk to die, Stella to die, and that just his brain it's enough. Unless he regrows his body in another Stella, that could mean my theory is wrong. I'll take it. But for now, I feel as if the information is limited to whatever Lilith Atlas was studying, and York, who didn't study, was just eating the Vegapunk, will not really have much to give. The Gorosei are like, alright, we're done with that. Let's immediately deal with the remaining satellites and the Straw Hat crews and what they're doing. The Giants make it onto the ship. Doll and Bluegrass have been turned young by Bonnie. And then we immediately see Luffy eating. Mars attacks, he gets there quickly. And then Luffy transforms back into Gear 5. And he tells Bonnie, yo, pull up, let's fight them. And they're like, she's like, I can't keep up with you. And people hear the drums. The ocean seems to turn into rubber. So Luffy can't turn the ocean into rubber because ships are bouncing up, everything. The giants are dancing. And then here it is. Bonnie has Gear 5. It's not really Gear 5 from what we saw in next chapter. I'll talk about it more next chapter, but when this came out, the main thing people didn't like was, and I remember the main tagline was, it takes away from Luffy, which to me I didn't really understand because like people were saying, oh, Luffy went through a lot, all the gears, all the troubles, the fights to get to Gear 5, and Bonnie got it like this. And to me, I'm like, no, it doesn't. And this is not even an ass pull in story because in the Kuma flashback at the very end, when Bonnie punched Kali for her sister, and then all the different things, give me a Nika is future, give me a Giant is future. Giant is future, she poses like Luffy when he went to Gigant against Kaido. To me, it makes sense, and it's not something I was surprised by. And I was very surprised to see people having backlash because it was expected. We all knew it was going to happen. And the time people have been there like, oh no, we might get a situation where at the final saga we might have the whole Straw Hat crew as Gear 5. If that happens, fair to them. They proved right. They get the prediction right. I wouldn't have anything bad to say about them. But I feel as if that's kind of an overreaction, and Oda is not stupid enough to do that. I don't believe so. They can say I'm a dick rider, all that, but I don't think he's a dumbass to make it so that all Gear 5. I don't think so. The mood is not that contentious, and the Giants are like, the Giants and the Marines are like, two Nikas, what the fuck, and just reacting to it. And then Walkery and Mars can sense something. They can sense, oh, the robot is something is happening. They must hurry. And then no, I think that's wrong. I think that's the ancient giant speaking. There you are. Joy Boy is back. And then finally, the final chapter in this chapter batch, chapter 1119, titled E-Myth, or Emeth. I said Emeth in my chapter review. I'm gonna say Emeth because it seems like that's the right way to say Emeth. But Emeth sounded like, I know Emeth is the name, but Emeth sounded like something you'd give to an ancient in a more ethereal type of way. Not ethereal, but I'm yapping. Only Child Yamato, Volume 9. Yamato is stoned by the kids of Kibi. So, in Tekken's video, he brought up, because in my head, it's like, oh yeah, Kaido looks kind of like Kaido, yeah. But I watched a couple of videos, Tekken, King of Lightning, all the people saying that, yeah, people who Kaido, the Tobiropo, the command, the All Stars, they all had horns, and the Gifters players all had fake horns on it. So the horns are not really known as the kids thinking this is Kaido's son or Kaido. It's more a member of Kaido's crew who they hate. We get kind of a climax to this Tose Kaku thing I talked about earlier, about how Stasu's like Susie is like, Kaku please, and Kaku tells her to leave. I'm not gonna talk about that. I talked about it earlier, what Lucci feels about it. We see Luffy and Bonnie, they're laughing, they're having fun. The giants are like, Nika, there's a party, all that. Mars tries to send let's say it's called a Boro Blast. A Boro Blast towards Luffy. Luffy gets hit, telling everybody else to hit Luffy as hard as possible. The giants gonna put out the fire and deal with the while Luffy and the crew deal with Mars. Luffy grabs a hold of Mars and looks very scary. It looks, because in the anime, Gear 5 Luffy has looked terrifying. Very, very terrifying. In the anime, that's in the anime. In the manga, not so much. This is the first time I've looked at manga Luffy and been like, oh, that looks genuinely scary. And I can't wait for when the anime catches up and animates this. Sanji says something that a lot of people caught, where Sanji says to Bonnie, Captain orders are absolute. This is people saying basically they feel like Bonnie will join the crew. And it doesn't feel like a Carrot situation where Carrot just got onto the ship, she never asked to join, or Yamato where she also just said, I'm joining your crew, and then Luffy said cool, but then she knew a lot of information, like what I said earlier about how Momonosuke knowing about the Void Century. Not the Void Century, but about Joy Boy. I feel like Bonnie joining the crew, to me, I understand it has some problems, but it makes sense and I'll be very happy for it. The next thing, Sanji uses Ifri Jambi, crazy. Bonnie and Frankie, I'll talk about those two. As they hit Luffy, Luffy says, you guys are using Haki. So it means more. Sanji, it's clear, but to me it means that at least either Sanji and Frankie or Sanji and Bonnie are using ornament. Bonnie is confirmed because we can see she uses giant Nika punch, and it has, like Luffy when he goes to get a thing and use elephant gun, you can see a black sheen around us, like, yeah, he can use that. And then Frankie, it would be so nice. Now I watched taking this video, how it's kind of fucked up. I said it before in how Nami could be using it through Big Mom and Zeus soul type of weird thing. We can let it slide, but talking over here about Frankie, I feel like it has to be. Luffy says it hurts. Last time Luffy was hit by a punch was, and it didn't have, we couldn't see Haki, was Gulp. I feel as if Frankie's using Haki, and I've given Frankie ornament Haki, and they send this nigga flying. Mars is gone. Atlas, like she says, running away. We see Katakuri. Katakuri hadn't been seen since the cover story where he fought Oven. That was the last time we saw Katakuri, not in canon, but in the most recent time. The message comes back on. I'll read the message out. That ceaselessly inherent aspect, we call it a will. I think will of thee. And to those that suffer for this, I can only pray my voice reaches you. The chapter keeps going. I think that's it. It's a full stop. That's how the message ends. So I might make a video about the whole message. I might write it down, read it out, talk about it, what it means. But I feel as if there's a lot of smarter YouTubers who've done that, and I'm just here to see what the theories and discussions were at the time. But the elders understand, oh, it's back on. And then people say, oh no, it's raining, and Jupiter, after he swallowed, I didn't bring it up because I didn't care about this part. He swallowed up all the different, like the cipher poles and the seraphim, and spat them out. And now he was trying to suck up the giant ship, but Luffy immediately punched him. And once again, like I said earlier, his eyes went wide. So once again, Mars has just taken a hit and he has gone flying. From what I see, we see Mars's face. He's squished up, and he gets sent flying. So eyes didn't white out. So, however, Jupiter, his eyes go white after one Nika punch, and then at the end of the chapter, the boat tries to jump towards the sea, and Emmett hits him with a punch, eyes white, and physical damage. The first time Walkery has taken damage, and this was big. And while Emmett, let me go through Emmett first. So Emmett, let's say Joy Boy. Listen up, Emmett. This is Joy Boy talking. The time is at hand. The time, in my 1119 review, I brought up how it can have ties to Toki. That's my theory, has ties to Toki, and how time is important, a lot, very, very important. And this is reiterating that in the Void Century, it seems that even then, the time wasn't right. For Roger said he wasn't the right time. It seems like even then the time wasn't right. Speaking of time, I said it before when Bonnie went into a giantish future. She's out of the distorted future immediately. And once again, her most free form, she was immediately out of the form. Luffy, when he has Joy Boy, looks down, he's not smiling, he's like, And then, Walkery, I'll talk about this to finish the video. So, Walkery, from what we can see here, is fine jumping towards the boat. He was gonna crush the boat so they can't escape, but he was gonna end up in the ocean, unless he was like, Nika made the ocean rubber, so I'll just bounce back onto land. But I think he knew he was gonna end up in the ocean. So people were talking about how, does that mean the Gorosei are in like traditional Devil Fruits, like I said earlier about like the magic circles? And I understand, and now I'm coming back to that because in 1110 people are like, there's someone from magic circles, and this is like, he did not care about jumping into the ocean. He doesn't care. So I guess the weakness isn't there from him. So it can be a separate type of fruit. To me, I think it has to be a fruit, not an ancient, but a special type of fruits, because he has the sash, and the sashes are the very, very defining factor. But anyway, that was the last 10 pieces of One Piece, the last 10 chapters. We've gone through basically all of Vegapunk's message, talking about the crimes he's committed, the world flooding, how Roger pirates know the past, Joyboy being the first pirate, Joyboy and Nika being different people, Over here, Joyboy and him saying Emmett's name, all these different things coming together. We've seen Bonnie Freework can do gigantish future. Nika is future, a future where she is more free. We've seen the Gorosei from the beginning. Saturn, the most durable. All this, he's taken. Walkery, the most durable, taking his first big hit at the end of this batch. Hopefully, between 1120 and 1129, I will do this again. I will go through all those chapters. This has been a long video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you've watched all this, thank you so much, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.